Hey everyone, welcome back to the Enlightened Entrepreneur Podcast. This is Alex. I hope you are having a great day. I definitely am having a great day. I just meditated for like an hour with some birds chirping in the background because we're having some amazing weather today. Anyway, we're not just having amazing weather today, I have a fucking amazing podcast episode for you today. I don't know if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube. I recommend watching it because then, well, we can see each other a little bit more, right? And today I have a very special guest, and I'm actually gonna read you some of the stuff that we talk about in the podcast, because I definitely want to sell you on this podcast, right? Like, if you just started listening, I want you to listen to this podcast in its entirety, because this man, let me just read you my introduction and some of the topics that we talked about. So Luke is actually the man who gave me my first 5-gram hero's doses magic mushroom experience in Amsterdam, and that's how I met him, right? We talked a couple times, and he has a very interesting story. He's the founder and CEO of Psychedelic Insights in Amsterdam, where I also did this magic mushroom journey, and he used to be a Royal Netherlands Marine Corps, so he's a veteran, and he's going to tell you a little bit about this in today's podcast, and also some fucked up, crazy stories. Man, you have to be a pretty big badass to not just make it into the Marine Corps, but actually stay there for a couple of years during active duty. So that's some crazy shit. And he turned into a serial entrepreneur, and today he's a plant medicine advocate, entrepreneur, an ocean sailor, mountaineer, and also a rainforest explorer. So he has a lot of different facets in his personality, as well as, of course, he's a father, and he used to be a therapist and public speaker and gave more than 40 talks on emotional health and well-being in the youth prisons in the Netherlands, where some of the most, serious offenders have to spend their time, right? And he showed them more about their emotional well-being and how to handle the internal stuff. So he's a man you can definitely learn a lot from. And let me just read you a couple of the topics we are talking about in the podcast, so you know if this is interesting for you. I guess it is. Like I said, I really want to sell you on this podcast because this is an amazing episode. So he talks about his experience. We talk about his experience in the Marines. We talk about his 10 years of just backpacking through the world, his way to becoming an entrepreneur and investor, his way into psychedelics, right? He was overworked, stressed, and his whole psychedelic experience, his whole journey, how he sailed through the oceans, through the whole world pretty much, and spent 5 days in a Force 9 storm where the ship slowly disintegrated, and he survived. So we talk about the psychedelic use in history, like with figures like Marcus Aurelius or the old Greeks, psychedelics in the modern world and the future of it. We talk about emotional health. What does it actually mean to be a man, right? I mean, what better person to talk about this than with somebody who used to be a special soldier, right? And now is a psychedelic advocate. And we also talk about why it is so important to follow your heart, and why our rational mind limits us, and why we in the Western world lost contact with our soul. So there's a lot that we are covering in this episode, and with this being said, if you like this podcast, share it. If you like this podcast, rate it on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube. Like this, you help me spread the word, right? And if you like it, then I bet some of your friends or colleagues or your wife, your husband, whatever, enjoys this as well. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Have fun, and looking forward to your comments on this podcast. Just text me on Instagram at Alexander Waller, or just write it in the comments on YouTube. And now, enjoy. All right, brother. Very happy to have you here. Actually, my first international podcast guest. And it's pretty cool that we could make it to sit down, because I better say it here instead of the intro. you were a big reason, or you were the reason actually why I started my psychedelic journey, right? I think I told you that I was looking for the perfect situation where I would say, hey, if I can get guidance by a psychologist, I would do it. Well, and then you showed up, and suddenly there were two psychologists that were that were guiding me.
Yeah.
And yeah, brother, thanks for taking the time, and also thanks for showing me this wonderful world of psychedelics. And first of all, how are you, brother? How's life in the Netherlands right now?
It's rainy, but gloomy, but life is good. We are very pleased that there are still a lot of clients coming in from abroad to have these type of experiences, and we're very pleased that we can help them, do it safely and experiences. And working hard on re-establishing a center, working hard on finishing a documentary about a retreat that we did this summer.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and so that will really make an impact, I think. And a lot of exciting things are happening still, and so it's all good. I'm looking forward to the new year, so we can really put the rubber on the road.
Yeah, man. Is it the document? I think you told me about it when I was in Amsterdam. Is it the same documentary, or is it?
Yeah, I think so.
The one with.
It's well, the teaser is already out, and it's a documentary about the veteran retreat that we did this summer in September.
Nice.
And it was really based on interviews we did between two sessions. But after the first session, already the interviews, they're so impactful.
Yeah, I bet.
So we just had really, really good feedback on the little bit that was public, and so we're looking very confident of making a really interesting event.
Nice.
Premiere the documentary, and see if we can get a cross-disciplinary panel discussion about psychedelics going.
Nice. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you have quite a fascinating story. Like you're a veteran yourself, right? I think from the Marine Corps. Yeah, and how the hell did you get into psychedelics? I mean, that's not something you hear every day. How did that happen, brother?
Well, I don't think there's a real direct relationship. I mean, yeah, my dad was in the military straight after the Second World War. He went to England.
Oh, damn.
Straight as soon as he got liberated for his military training, and because he could still fight the Japanese, So long story short, he was in the military all his life. He didn't know any better, and I grew up, with my dad in the military, and so I didn't really have a philosophical objection to the military as a violent organization, a violence organization, really, to be quite open about it. And so when I was young, I didn't really excel in academia, and I was already traveling a lot. I was doing a lot of mountaineering, a lot of long distance running, and then I was like, okay, can I really do this? And I thought the selection was very, very hard, and then the training was very hard, and
I bet
it seemed like a very interesting job to have when you are an insecure guy that is very fit, eager to put your mark on the map and play a role. So I thought, if I can ski in the Arctic and jump out of planes and swim out of submarines and run on a beach in the tropics and climb mountains, well, yeah, where do I sign up? If I can get paid, otherwise I have to pay to do these things, So in that spirit, I signed up, and I stayed in there for 4 years. It was a standard contract, and I mean, it was a very, very interesting and very shaping experience, So
in which way?
Yeah, in a way that you get drilled a certain way.
Yeah.
So looking back now with the knowledge I have now, I think they're really rewriting your programming, like for 8 weeks without the weekends, for 8 weeks, you're in a forest and you sleep between 1 or 3 hours a week. And for the
A
rest of
week.
yeah, I never
Yeah,
thought that
dude, what the fuck? Okay.
So this is just to condition,
Yeah.
soldiers or Marines to go past thinking and to drill things that when the shit hits the fan, that you can do stuff on automatic pilot, and so you don't
Yeah.
really have to fall back on, okay, what does the book say, that you keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, like a robot. And
damn, you're a tough motherfucker. Like 1 to 3 hours per week for 2 months.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, bro.
Yeah.
All right, but sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. It's just that is
no worries.
crazy.
And the whole selection was with 80 people, and that was a 2-day psychological thing, and only 2 people came through. And then I got into a class of 27, and then only 7 made the final training.
7.
And then you have to start. So then you go to the Alps or to Scotland, and then you go to Norway above the polar circle, or you go to the Caribbean, and I did jungle training in Belize jungles. I went to Martinique for commando training. I went to Iraq and Turkey in the first Gulf War. You get pretty busy. I lived in the Caribbean for about 9 months in the Curacao, which is a lot of fun, a lot of sun, a lot of beaches, and a lot of booze as well. Oh, terrible, it's when you're young and you're happy and you're not risk averse, and you don't have a philosophical issue with it, then it can be like in the movies that it's fun also. But yeah. So what I learned later is that, of course, like after 20 years, I got into contact with old buddies of mine. And then I realized that a lot of them actually had quite serious mental health problems.
Like 20 years after the military.
Yeah. And I never really initially understood why that was the case, but later I learned more and more and more about it. And yeah, at one point, I after even including the military, I lived out of a backpack, traveled the world for about 10 years. I went, through. I did a lot of jungle trekking in Borneo. I did a lot of sailing in the Caribbean and a lot of mountaineering all over the place. In the Andes.
Cool.
And, a lot of trekking in the Himalayas, and also every winter I went to the Alps to do ice climbing. So I had a pretty active lifestyle, and at one point, I decided to play normal, and that was
That's a nice way of putting it.
But that was exactly it, and. But you have to recognize that you're playing a role, and especially in the military, I was definitely playing a role, it was just an act, and I had fun. And but yeah, then I started a business. It was a web technology business, but then this was in the first internet boom, so
what kind of technology?
Huh?
What kind of technology was it?
Yeah, internet technology, web technology.
Okay.
It was back late 90s and last century, and
the old days.
And then
man, I'm turning 31 in a couple of months. I was like, damn, really? Are the 90s that far away? It's like,
yeah.
It's kind of a crazy feeling. Well, it's not that long ago, but it was a completely different world, like big time. Anyway,
and so yeah, that went very well, and ultimately I left my business, sold my shares, And then I had these different type of jobs where I was seen as a as a consultant, and so I had many
Yeah.
different roles doing the same type of work, be it a project manager or a marketing manager, all had to do with technology. And a lot of these startups got a lot of investments, and then I came in and I said, okay, let's do it this way, let's do it that way, let's make it work this way. So I hired all the designers, hired all the programmers. I told
Yeah.
the investors how to make their money with all kinds of business models. And this worked for publishing, scientific publishing, genealogy projects with the government, gaming, financial transactions for festivals and stuff, and ticketing, and yeah, a lot of other stuff. And
Man, you're living an active life.
yeah, yeah, I'm not afraid to fail because then the only way is up. So
It's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
well,
True.
I heard a quote of Churchill the other day. I don't know. I don't remember who said it. The success is what happens in between failures.
Nice. Yeah. Nice
Instead of
one.
seeing it like this big accomplishment, like a big mountain and all this stuff, you have to keep trying. It's like a startup. It's running and adjusting the course.
True. Yeah.
Running and steering, and yeah. So at the end of this career that I had,
Hmm.
I got into situations where, yeah, there was just a different type of people, and it didn't really resonate with me.
Yeah.
And I was used to working in really, really, really great teams where there's a lot of trust, a lot of teamwork,
Yeah.
and obviously starts off with the military that you're totally conditioned to give trust, to receive trust, and rely on others. And yeah, and this carried on a long time. And a lot of times I was responsible for the people in my organization or my department. I was always also hiring people.
Yeah.
But at one point that wasn't the case anymore, and I was more higher up on the ladder, and then yeah, you work for directors and owners, and if they don't really understand their own business very well, uh, yeah, the response varies, and I felt like a Labrador in a snake pit sometimes. And yeah, at one point, sitting with a friend who was really, really into self-development, and she actually pointed out that there was this drug, and if I've ever read about it, and it seems to have really positive effects on people. And I never really did that type of thing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my beer, I had a lot of high five funs in bars and going out,
Yeah.
easily acting like a clown, after 2 3 beers, happy go
Of
lucky.
course, brother. We all did it. It can be fun. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I was blessed in the sense that I never had problems that deep that was ever an issue, substance abuse.
Hmm.
But I did notice that when I had these demanding jobs,
Yeah.
starting every day with 100 political emails, and then you have to cover your ass at every corner,
Yeah.
that I had to really smoke a joint when I came home to be really present with my kids back then, So
Hmm. Yeah.
and then looking back, I would have never called it a mental health issue, but a stress issue, but that's how it starts. It sneaks in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So looking back, that's I think that's where it started to slide. And then I think later, uh, yeah, also my relationship was not really in a good place, and I experienced a lot of distress, and which I really was in denial about. But and then I decided to get informed about this miraculous story that I heard about a drug that you can do, and it has a positive effect on your personality, and apparently it has all kinds of properties that just sound absolutely ridiculous,
Which sounds sometimes too good to be true, right? It's
Yeah,
like this can't be.
yeah, absolutely. So I didn't know anyone that knew what that was. There was no one in my entire tribe that even heard of it, except
How
my
many years back is that now?
Yeah, that must have been the end of 2012.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
okay.
The end of the
Yeah.
dark ages, as the Mayans say. So,
You're like, oh, finally, there's the light. Whew,
well,
thank God.
I swear to God, on January 9, 2013, I had seen like 80 testimonials on video on YouTube about people that had done it. So at one point, I decided to go and do it. And
By the way, what are we talking about mushrooms like right now,
no,
or
I had done mushrooms before,
yeah?
uh, which was always a lot of fun. But I never understood they had any mystical properties or
Hmm.
medicinal for
Okay,
therapeutic effect. It was just like a
got
beer.
it.
No, it was
Yeah,
get fucked up a little to see colors and to just enjoy yourself, and it was just
yeah.
an alternative that felt a little bit more healthy. But once I went to a party, I had a light dose of mushrooms,
Hmm.
and I just felt like I needed a breath of air, and it was
Hmm.
only a slight discomfort. And if I had only known that I could sit in the grass for 5 minutes and take a break and then feel better, I felt awkward all night. And it it was no big thing, but I really said, okay, I didn't touch it for 10 years. So after 10
Oh
years,
wow. Okay.
new situation came to pass, and that
Yeah.
was ayahuasca. And I was like, "Aya what?" And it was a brew made from a vine by Indians in the Amazon, and it contained this mysterious psychedelic, and
Yeah.
it had to do with the pineal gland. And then you look up the pineal gland, and the shape is of a pine cone. And then you start to look for pine cones everywhere in symbols and uh, and
You're going down the rabbit hole.
you're going rabbit hole. And
I
then
know what you mean.
it
Yeah.
is one thing to read about it, and then I decided to go and do it. To be quite honest, I understood from a mental capacity what I thought that was going to happen.
Hmm.
But what the experience actually is like uh, is, you think you get a puddle, but you wind up with a sea, or with an ocean.
Yeah.
It is unimaginable, and it feels so more real than this reality. Then all of a sudden, you're in another dimension. There is an other entity that communicates with you. Obviously, it's a she, and she is benevolent, and almighty. And I was shown, you know, my dark side, you know,
Hmm.
and in plain English, how much of a dick I could be, you know.
Yeah.
And that was so confrontational and also upsetting that
Yeah.
emotional. I felt like a dog that was grabbed by the neck and have to go through its own poop, after it's shit in the living room. So I was like, enough is enough. I get the picture. I get the picture. But but it
Yeah.
wasn't, it wasn't enough. So and yeah, I saw myself out of the eyes of my then partner, and
Hmm.
yeah, and I just promised myself, I would never be like that again.
Yeah.
These are such deep experiences in another dimension that whatever you experience there is like a DNA experience. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not just a rationale that you contemplate, that you entertain
Yeah.
thoughts. No, it becomes your whole being. And yeah, in this same experience, I knew that there was a lot of personality change happening because I was not in a good place for the first time in my life.
Quick question. What kind of intention did you set? Like, why did you actually
Yeah, this is
take ayahuasca?
the intention was this. Yeah, I had this. I saw that I was responding differently to stimuli in my,
Yeah.
and I had to, yeah, was brutally try to be brutally honest with myself. So the
Yeah.
deepest I could come was was the following, and I knew it had to be a fear because it's negative. If it's positive, it's love. You know, it can be any
Yeah.
color of love. It's if it's negative, it can be any leaf on the tree of fear. So it
Yeah.
was negative, so it had to be a fear. So I was afraid of losing control. That was the fear. So I wanted to lose the
Mm,
fear of losing control.
I get it.
That was my intention setting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was short and effective. And ayahuasca more or less laughed me in the face. You think you have any control whatsoever? You know, it's just an illusion, and you're afraid of losing an illusion. And I was like, uh, uh, you're like an ant in a cathedral, Uh, and so that it really showed me a lot about psychology, or and my psychology, or also I think
Mm,
in general I later found. And then yeah, and this experience, yeah, it also it was so vivid. It was like a live movie. I found myself on the beach, hand and knees in the water, and I had a perspective on me, but I also was me, and I had to hit the water, and I had to hit the water so hard and so many times that I couldn't lift my arms anymore. But that's all happening in my head. But for me, it felt real, and
I
in
get
that
it.
process, I
Yeah.
lost all my anger with the world. So I was
Damn.
angry about banks. I was angry about the war machine, with arms industry, intelligence agencies. I was angry at the pharmaceutical industry. I was angry at everything that was wrong with the world, and but but yeah, it showed me that if you want to change the world, you just change yourself, and if you change
Yeah.
yourself, your whole world changes. Because if you're angry, there's always enough to be angry about,
Oh
but
yeah.
but if you just have a hula hoop around you and you say, well, okay, this is my world, I'll take responsibility for this. Yeah, your
Yeah.
whole world changes. So,
Definitely.
and just like a psychedelic, only psychedelic can. Yeah, some other experiences were very interesting. But the most important thing that also happened was that it showed me that love is the answer in a way that only psychedelics can. So
And it sounds so cheesy, doesn't it?
it
When
sounds so
when you when
when
you
you
say when you say it, it's like,
cry
oh God.
in the toilet.
It's like I always think to myself, I sound like a hippie. Really? Damn, am I saying this? But it's true. Once you feel this, it's like, oh my God, what was I doing?
Yeah. And it was like, oh, really? I really didn't accept it, And then I
Mm,
was like, really? Is it is really love is the answer if this and this and this happens, You
yeah.
know, if someone, yeah, you can think of horrible like, things that happen, and then I would be, oh, really? Is that love also the answer? And it showed me every movie of any circumstance where I thought, well, there's special circumstances, exceptions here, and conditions here, and that all the time in everything that my brain could come up with
Yeah.
as an exemption, it showed me that love is always the answer. And
Yeah.
and once I gave in, uh, I think something really shifted in me so deep.
I agree.
Yeah, and the scary thing was that when I came home the next day, yeah, I was in tears, I felt
Yeah.
like a totally new person. I felt
Yeah.
I had played with magic, and now I
Yeah.
was living in a science fiction reality where I just had such a deep reset. So how can I live two lives in one life?
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
totally different consciousness, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm pretty sure a lot of my alpha male friends thought I had gone completely bananas, and suddenly there's no more beer and tits and ass to talk about. and
Yeah.
and so yeah, that deeply, deeply shifted me, and it took quite a while actually to integrate that whole process because I had no one to fall back on.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So no one even knew what ayahuasca was or psychedelics, and let alone talking other dimensions and
Dude, I can't imagine that. Like, that's actually I started talking to my first coach, Craig Filek, who you have a very similar vibe. I think I told you when we met in Amsterdam that you have a very similar vibe, which is very interesting. And he had his first psychedelic experience, I think, when he was 19 or 20.
Mhm.
And he had no one to talk about as well, to integrate. And I'm hearing this from you, and I'm just thinking, that's fucked up, because all I've been doing after the experience is like, I stopped working, I stopped going to the gym. It's like I just sat around, like Eckhart Tolle, just sitting on a park bench, just trying to figure this shit out, what just happened to me, talking to friends, mentors, like,
Yeah.
what do I make of this? And what does this mean? And what does this symbol mean? And this experience? And damn. So how did you integrate it? Like, did you just read a lot? Did you just sit on it and meditate? Write?
Yeah, I got a lot of tips, I guess, online. But for me, really, I knew what I couldn't do anymore, So I
I get
couldn't go
it.
back to corporate life.
Yeah,
So
I get it.
that house and that mortgage, nah, we're not gonna do that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I did everything that we're trying to shield people against with our service of integration. That is to make big life decisions.
Mm.
And really be there for people to help them reflect on it and make it really practical about what they can learn from it and put it into practice in their normal lives. Before enlightenment, you chop wood. After enlightenment, you chop wood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I didn't. I decided to go and get some fresh air on my sailing yacht by getting on board in Amsterdam and sailing to the Caribbean. So that took me about 5 to 6 months. And
You sailed alone or like with a team or?
yeah, on my boat, and then there were crew getting on and off like hitchhikers. And yeah, yeah.
Damn, man. You're like a textbook adventurer. That is fucking amazing. Like from all the stuff that you, or not textbook, like the archetype of an adventurer. Kind of what kind of stuff you're dropping today? Like went to the to the military, just sailed through the whole world, lived here, lived there. Yeah, it's pretty. You're an adventurous soul, huh?
Yeah, I think when I was 16 or something, I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this life? The only thing I know for sure is that I live on Earth. So I want to see Earth before I die. And I do have an adventurous soul, I guess, because
Yeah.
this also sailing, I did it like a long time ago, also in the 90s in the Caribbean. And I was like, wow, imagine having a sailing yacht, it's like a floating caravan. And all you need
Yeah.
is and you can go anywhere with friends, with, anywhere. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is fascinating because I was always used to just going on with a backpack, you can pitch a tent, but you can't do that forever. But on a sailing yacht, it's not so much camping, You have a toilet, and you have a
Damn.
roof. But I must say, it's the last real wilderness out there, oceans and seas. It can be really rough, and
I bet.
I traumatized the hell out of myself by learning, by doing my learning, doing my reading. When I misread my first weather map, and I went out, I was in a force 9 storm for 5 days and 5 nights, and slowly the whole boat was disintegrating, and it was even
What the fuck?
you're just even afraid to go out on the deck, because I mean, the horizon was a circle on top of my head. It was absolutely insane, and that really shook me to my core. And
Damn.
that's how I learned by
Brother.
major
Well,
cockroach. Yeah.
you're like going to the most extreme. I'm gonna go to the military. I'm gonna sail alone into the storm. Gonna try ayahuasca. God damn.
Yeah, that's. I mean, what I did was really I wanted to put into practice what my intention setting was all about. You know, I wanted to lose fear of losing control, and I was 40, 45 or something
Yeah.
that age. And before I did ayahuasca, it would have felt like the most scary thing to start all over, at that age, and let go of this whole career that you built, with this image and this ego and
Oh yeah. It's
uh,
nice and comfortable, right?
yeah, and with an income.
Yeah.
And then I decided, well, first I had the sailing experience, so I had some really, really interesting things happen to me on a spiritual level as well, in the middle of the ocean, like I had a conversation with myself as a 10-year-old, and the 10-year-old, wanted to maybe to become the Marine.
Yeah.
But, I did so much more in my life that I had like a dialogue between the two. It was very unreal, very psychedelic almost. And so yeah, later I came back to the Netherlands, and then doors opened for me. This is what I call the magic of the mushroom. Normally, it's about synchronicity.
This is something I'm so anxious to talk about, like because this shit is happening a lot right now, and it's sometimes you're like thinking like, what the fuck is happening? Like, because this before you go into the story, doesn't it feel like you can only talk about this to people who have the same experience or who get it? Because if you talk about this with people who don't get it, it almost sounds like you're borderline crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and that's fine with me. Yeah, it's true. I mean, this is the thing, and when I talk to people and I don't really know if it really resonates, then I always apologize for the hippie talk.
Yeah, I get it.
And it's only for me, it's very hard not to use metaphors when you talk about these types of things. And a lot
Yeah.
of people actually miss the psychological insights, and they don't even understand what psychedelic experiences are like. They think, oh, you feel different, and then you have the benefits of it. No, it's not. It's called a trip because you go somewhere else, than just in the body, So yeah, it's very important that if you have these type of experiences, that when you share them, you do it with psychedelic friendly people. Otherwise, it's like a cold shower.
Agree.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing: you can't even blame people, right? I mean, what kind of education is being done in terms of psychedelics and how they help you with your mental health? It's getting more popular over the last couple of years, I feel like. But if I look, let's say you talk to a random person on the street, probably they don't have a good image of psychedelics. Probably they don't even have a good image of weed, right? Probably all they know is like, oh, alcohol is good. Yeah, it's bad for you. It's bad for you, but hey, it's legal, so it has to be the best one, right? But besides that,
well, they have a controversial past, for sure.
Yeah.
But, well, if I share what I really think, I'll probably get locked up. But
you can share everything, yeah, brother. That's like this is
a big role in our history.
Yeah, definitely.
They have a role which is described in the Dead Sea Scrolls by John Allegro, who translated one of these scrolls. And it is about the Essenes. The Essenes, they really lived like Jewish Buddhist monks, and they talk about it, and it makes more sense when you Google the psychedelic gospels, then you see a lot of examples where you see Christ depicted with mushrooms. But the same goes for Judaism, the same goes for the Tibetans, the The same goes for the Egyptians. And the Greeks really did a tremendous job because they had the Eleusinian mystery schools, not for 200 years, but for 2000 years. And it makes a lot more sense that they invented democracy and justice and all these other value. And even all those Roman emperors like Marcus Aurelius and others, they went there, and Pythagoras and Plato and everyone who was anyone went to these mystery schools. And what they served was a brew made from barley, which is a grain, but infested with a fungus. And this is exactly how Albert Hofmann discovered LSD.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, and then there was still a thing called the oracle, where they go into a dark room and then they consult the oracle. And even in the Vedic traditions, they have a brew called soma. So, and then you have all the art, throughout the ages. It seems very festive, naked for a Victorian type prudist Catholic world, So
that.
and then of course there was the revival. I think amphetamines played a big role in both world wars. They gave a lot of soldiers amphetamines. So and later, of course, psychedelics. Well, LSD was discovered by Albert Hofmann in '45 in Switzerland, and then he sent it all over the world to ask others to experiment with it, and a lot of people did. So there were before the war on drugs, there were about 40,000 studies being done into psychedelics, and one somewhat quite interesting details. Like they would give children with autism LSD, and a lot of them would improve their condition or they cure their condition. If you're giving children psychedelics, you're seen as the Antichrist. We had a professor here, Bastiaans in the Netherlands, who was treating Holocaust survivors with LSD, and there were a lot of positive results being done. And so, when you're going off to war in a country on the other side of the world that mostly comprises of jungle, and you're going to defend capitalism, and you're sending 60,000 conscripts, people that have to go there, otherwise you go to jail, into their deaths, and you suddenly have a movement that makes people question the government, question the sense of their decisions, and rather than on the campfire naked and listen to music and make love, then you look a little bit too much like Jesus Christ, and they rather have you carry a gun. So this whole political condemnation of psychedelics is not a scientific, but a pure political move.
100%, I agree.
By the US government. And now we have to play pretend and reinvent all the science and medicalize it as a route out of their sin box, out of their sin bin, but they blackmailed the entire world with their war on drugs. So that some people really go overboard, like the Philippines and Malaysia and with their or Thailand with their obscene anti-drug laws, And what are they so afraid of? That you find God, through a different method than the organized church, or that you love peace a little more than you do conflict, So I really appreciate the liberty that we live in here in the Netherlands, where we still have psilocybin truffles that are legal because the mushrooms apparently were too dangerous at one point through also international pressure from France after an incident with a girl that died after she fell, and ayahuasca got also made illegal a couple of years ago, and nothing had to do with science. It was just,
of course not,
emotional. It was an emotional dialogue, that sort of thing, and so I think that you have to really choose. Either you're going to go for science and you follow that route, or everything is going to be completely emotional and we're going to live in chaos. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
think
think government needs to really follow the science,
yeah.
and I think the future of psychedelics looks very promising, although capital has a big part to play, and there's always a downside and a dark side to it. But
Oh yeah.
but it's a luxury that we couldn't have imagined, like 10 years ago. So
Totally. I have to agree with you. I mean, if you look at the science or the insane amount of studies that has been done over the last couple of years, I mean, it's getting more and more. And I was very scared to try psychedelics because I was more, or I still am more on the cautious side, right? I don't just want to be like, hey, give me 5 grams of mushrooms or smoke some DMT without knowing anything about it. But after a while, once you go down the rabbit hole, I start to think, why the fuck is this illegal? What if we really want to help people? I think you told me once it's like the cure for cancer in the mind. It's like the cure for mental cancer, and that's how I feel about it as well. If you look at, I love the work of Gabor Mate, who's doing a lot of stuff in Canada, and the stuff he's doing with ayahuasca, with people who have traumatic experiences or who have a history of drug abuse. If you look at the results, it's literally too good to be true. If you read it, like 1 or 2 sessions, I just watched his movie a couple of weeks ago, The Wisdom of Trauma, where he talks with this one guy who had prostate cancer. He was this overachiever, always doing more, and he had prostate cancer, got surgery, and at first they thought, oh, okay, the cancer is gone, but it came back with a vengeance. Not just prostate, but suddenly it was in the lungs, in the spine, in the hips, everywhere. So you couldn't just operate on it. And he was finally forced to look at his emotional issues that he tried to overcompensate with the whole career thing. And I think he did one ayahuasca session, and the cancer went away because he fixed his emotional issues. And if you read stuff like this, there's no sane reason why this should be banned or why this shouldn't be worked with in a safe setting. Definitely.
Well, if we look at the current state of the world, I think money and the business of illness and the pharmaceutical industry have a bigger role to play. So it is called dis-ease for a reason. It starts between your ears, and it may take 30 years to manifest, but ultimately, it can manifest. All these chronic illnesses, they might have a biochemical condition in which they can flourish, but I feel that we will learn that it might even have a mental cause or an emotional cause.
Oh yeah,
trauma-based cause, and therefore I think that psychedelics and mental health are just the tip of the iceberg.
Agree. Yeah.
Because if you look at the existing testimonials of these people that were victims of cancer, and they received not for the cancer, of course, God forbid, but for end-of-life distress, felt this 1 dose of psilocybin, and that those testimonies, they are really tear-jerking emotional testimonies, and it doesn't matter if you believe them, but if you see it, you believe that they believe it, Apparently it was so terminal, that cancer, that 10 years later they're still standing on stage talking about that first experience, So let's keep the whole picture in mind, but that's is, I think psychedelics are hard to research because a lot of people fear them. They don't have a mechanical function, It's not just that, the molecule goes to the H2 serotonin receptor, and then this happens and that happens, and we see blood flow in the brain, so we know that you're thinking of this, and then that happens. We don't
Yeah.
even know how dreams work. We don't even know how memory is stored. We hardly figure out psychiatry. It's just about drugging up people. But like
Yeah.
Gabor said, everything is about trauma. We are pure light, tainted by traumatic experiences, and
Yeah.
that creates our own specific, unique neurological prison, based on our coping mechanisms and defensive mechanisms,
True.
and they don't benefit you over a lifetime, and that's not how psychology, views it, or psychiatry looks at it. And I don't think all psychiatric conditions are based that way, but I think psychology in general is based that way.
Oh
And you
yeah.
have different personality traits, and you can think certain things are genetic. No, they are cultural.
Yeah.
If you grow up with a father that is very distressed and traumatized, you're going to have the same type of communication skills.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Project those onto your kids as well.
Yeah.
And you also, things that hurt you, you're going to do the same to others. That hurt,
100%.
and in some way you learn the lesson, and then you're going to project that shit onto others as well. And this is
Yeah.
normal human behavior. But if you don't break the cycle, you can call it genetic, and you call it a deviation, and you can medicalize it. But
Yeah.
unless we all take leadership of our own healing,
We have to
you have to break the cycle, and then you stop it.
agree.
And with psychedelics, I was talking to a friend, and she was explaining that about her first ever psychedelic experience was also an ayahuasca experience, and that was an experience where she saw that the trauma that she was experiencing, the blockage, that it wasn't hers. It was something that was in her feminine
Yeah.
lineage, that caused it. And at the same time, the shaman that was present approached her, and she
Yeah.
started talking about that exact specific subject, and they invited her spirit, and then healed her trauma. This type of thing,
Damn.
normal doctor or person even listens to these type of things. Get the hell out of here.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
so alien. And when you look at all these companies raising money to do all this research, and they pretend that, with DMT or psilocybin or LSD or any other type of variant compound, you can cure eating disorders and depressions and anxieties and OCD and all. I don't know what you have. Yeah, that's right. You can all cure those things, because most of them are trauma based, and they all have
Totally.
to do with a lack of self-love, and they all have to
Yep.
do with fear of losing control,
Yep.
and only on a deep level, which I call mostly like a soul level. If you really have a breakthrough experience with
Yeah. Agree.
yeah, you can heal that, but it's not like you pop a pill and then your headache cures.
No.
Deepest experience that you can ever have as a human being, and when you have it, you're no longer a human being.
Yeah. To be honest, it's for me it was tough. Like it was tough. It still is tough, because I feel like the biggest part of it is actually the integration afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I haven't done ayahuasca yet, so I can't speak to that. But the mushroom experience was just, the first 30 minutes were just difficult. Then when I let go, it was amazing, but also difficult because of what it showed me. But just the integration, I can tell you, over the last 2 months, like my intention was to heal, right? To heal my heart. And over the last 2 months, I think I've never cried this much in my life, like in the last 2 months. Not a depressed crying, like, oh yeah, but a healing crying. A lot of stuff coming out, a lot of talking, a lot of writing, a lot of meditating, just sitting
literally just for hours sitting there and just feeling what's happening inside and noticing something is changing. And it's tough, man, but amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Well, I'm proud of you, man, that you do this, that it happens, because it's so counterintuitive. So
Yeah.
we obviously, and thank God, there's a lot of attention for women suffering and the Me Too movement, and but obviously that is caused by generations of men that aren't really dealing with their mental issues. And so we have all these acts of how to be a man, and then it's carried by a little inner child, that doesn't know
Oh,
how to
that's
act.
a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
So we are all you know doing by learning, or learning by doing. And
Yeah.
it's it's uh, it's uh, it's so courageous, to say it out loud, that it's okay to cry, because we all sweep all that shit every day under the carpet, until ultimately we have a mountain with a rug over it, you know
Yeah.
that we call normal. And what a
Yeah.
psychedelic does, it addresses everything, every little piece of dust, and the elephant in the room. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, you can have a good cry because we skip those cries, we skip the processing, we put a lid on it, we keep on walking, we take it on the chin,
Yeah.
take it like a man, and all kinds of absurdities that we have grown to accept as culture and normal. Well,
Yeah.
really, you can be strong and sensitive at the same time, you know?
I would even, hey man, I would even say I got way stronger through this. I mean, I've been a huge fan of meditation for years, and this is like one of the main things I teach my clients. But I told you when I came to Amsterdam that is there, as if there was like a wall I couldn't get through.
Yeah.
Right? No matter how much I meditate, no matter what kind of teachers I sought out, I felt it was the right point to start taking psychedelics because I couldn't get any further, or my subconscious wouldn't let me in.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, now you have to take a different step. And what I noticed, the more, I don't even know if sensitive is the right word, but the more I opened up,
Yeah.
that's how I like to put it, the more I opened up, the more I become a tough motherfucker. That's how I really would put it. Business is going better. I started this, right, the English podcast, which I wanted to do for years, but I was too scared. I started doing martial arts. I was just purely honest with what was going on inside of me with my friends or mentors or acquaintances. Not this ego thing, right? Trying to put something under the rug, like, no, let's not talk about this, but just, hey, I'm scared of this. Hey, or hey, I didn't like how you treated me there, or I would actually love to do this, but I feel there's this resistance out of me. Can we talk about it? Before, with certain things, you close up. You tend to close up and try to hide it, but
Yeah.
that's not the way to go. That's not the way
You
to
have the
go.
perspective. This is so great if you had to have the perspective. Like I am just getting conscious about the fact that I still have a hard time expressing my needs, because if
I
I
get it.
express needs, I feel like a little bitch whining. And
Yeah.
this is old behavior, from the military, like express my needs, you do what you need, what needs to be done. Let's do it. And so this is really not helping me.
Yeah.
It's so intelligent to be able to say what you just said or what you just did, really affects me and how I feel, and it
Yeah.
does to me. Like I skip it and have an emotional reaction a lot of the time still,
Yeah.
and also about setting boundaries. I
Big one.
the
Yeah.
whole advertising for this military career was like push your boundaries, push your borders, you want to be able to do anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
then you can, and you don't have a clue where your own boundaries are. Only
Yeah.
when it's almost too late do you feel that, oh my God, I went way off the reservation here, and
Yeah.
have to backpedal. So I think a lot of people, or a lot of men, have share these experiences, especially from a military type background. And
Yeah.
I think it's a superpower to have those really fine-tuned. Yeah.
That's nice. It is a superpower. Especially what I noticed is you feel the energy of the person you're talking to way more intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a sixth sense. You feel what is going on inside them, and you feel if they are honest with you or not. If they keep something back, if they hold something back,
Yeah.
because you know how it feels when you do it. You're like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
hear,
don't want
I
to.
hear you completely. I understand it completely what you're saying. You just read people's energy. You know exactly when they hit the brakes or not, and you know why they hit the brakes. You know why they
Yeah.
have inhibitions. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And you know what's the crazy thing? Like when because this resonates with me, the actually communicating my needs or setting proper boundaries. That it comes out, if you don't do that, it comes out in subconscious ways, in covert ways, right? That it's not like, oh, I'm not gonna fulfill my needs. No, you suppress it, but then it comes out in very manipulative ways, very vicious ways. For example, I'm reading I don't know if you know it, Dr. Robert Glover, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I'm reading it a second time right now, and I'm thinking to myself, God, I'm such a bitch, because it's all these coping mechanisms that actually shield your real needs, because
Yeah,
you're closing up, and then you have these covert contracts, that's what he calls them. You are not consciously telling somebody your needs, or you're not consciously telling somebody when somebody stepped over a boundary. You're like pushing it down, but then you act it out in more subconscious manipulative ways, which actually harm
yeah,
yourself and the relationship. So it's like,
yeah.
dude, if you want to man up, like, we actually, as if we could redefine what manning up means, is like, handle your shit, like handle your shit.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, this is really, really profound. And the more and more you see men groups, really, really going for it, and
Yeah.
more and more people embracing therapy or personal development or even psychedelics, and of
Yeah.
course, I've been privileged to witness so many miracles, in people. That's just unbelievable.
Why are people coming to you actually? What are their intentions? What draws them to psychedelics? Because I know my intention, I know the stories from friends or mentors of mine, but you work with hundreds of people, so what drives them to do this?
Um, um, yeah, I mean, these reasons are as diverse as there are people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think a lot of people come because they are already doing a lot of self-development and trying to spiritually grow,
Mm.
and then they get stuck at one point, just
Yeah.
generally, and I
Yeah.
think people come for that. Then there's also people that are suffering, sometimes more depressive episodes, or
Mm.
they sometimes experience some anxieties,
Yeah.
and they can have huge benefits, by psychedelic experience, which is framed, with intention setting and such. I think it can be positive, but it's not for everyone. And
Mm.
but we've seen some super interesting intention settings. We've had people that wanted to communicate with their ancestors, and they did. And we had
Nice.
people that wanted to know if their loved ones who were deceased were in a good place. They weren't disappointed.
Nice.
We had people that wanted to do it from a professional point of view and wanted to have more insight into social psychology. Well, he wasn't disappointed. So there's so many types of reasons why people will do it. Some to just get the experience from
Hmm.
a professional point of view, because they are busy with cultural change in organizations, and
Hmm.
but as it's not just nice to know, it's not like
Yeah.
reading a book. It's a psychedelic experience. It will
Yeah.
it will leave you standing there, trembling like a leaf. Uh, Word,
Yeah.
that is just incomprehensible and unable to put it into words. So yeah, so a lot of different unique personalities with as many different intention settings, with a broader range of things
Hmm.
that I think generally come down to ultimately self-acceptance, self-love,
Yeah.
and also fear of losing control issues.
Yeah.
And that is also the reason why a lot of people will never do it. Fear of losing control.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then yeah, it's about this experience that you let go of the wheel, crawl into the back seat, open the window, enjoy the ride, for a day.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
letting go of the wheel, pressing your nose against the windshield, will allow you to look at your journey
Yeah.
from a different perspective, and it
Yeah.
will open more doors to your heart than your mind ever could, and
Oh yeah. Completely
yeah,
different.
yeah, because it's in every language, follow your heart, listen to your gut,
Yeah.
and all we do is try and overthink everything and we become depressed,
Yeah.
uh, and that's not really working out, because you can't figure it all out, sometimes chess is an intuitive game, you can't
Oh
figure out
yeah.
everything, you know
True. Yeah, and I
unless
think we're in a world today where we love the mind, or not love, but we treat the mind as the answer to everything.
yeah
Like, oh, can we talk about it rationally? Can we measure it? Can we put it in certain scientific terms? Can we put it in this box, basically, right? Which is with a good intention, but like you said, it has its limits.
yeah, it has its limits because first of all, people are doing it, and if you have a career as a scientist, it is mostly about a certain theory, about a
Yeah.
certain hypothesis, or a specific paradigm, and if you start discovering evidence that might suggest you were wrong all along, you
Yeah.
know you were on soapbox, then it has to do with ego, and
Oh
and
yeah.
and if we are very open, if science is so open, then
Yeah.
why don't we study consciousness as a faculty? Why is
Yeah.
it like a fluke thing?
Yeah.
Is placebo like treated like an anomaly? You
Yeah.
know, apparently positive thinking can do a lot.
Oh
So
yeah.
and if you look in the past, from Plato to look into the current quantum physics type of experiments where consciousness is at the basis of all that is, and you find it in the Hindu Genesis, you find it in so many philosophies and
Yeah.
different disciplines, that it would justify that we take consciousness and we study it. But there's already a different
100%.
mystical experiences that psychedelics cause. There's a whole group of scientists that want to dismiss it. But
Really?
but yeah, and there's a counter movement also. Thank God for that. But and you have to just question it. You have to question it. Like a good scientist, you have to question it.
Exactly. And I don't buy it that consciousness is just a byproduct of our body, our nervous system.
Byproduct of a biochemical reaction by a piece of meat in your head, you know.
Exactly.
There's a little bit more going on, because if it was so simple, you know, yeah, it's like trying to find the man inside the radio, you know. He's in
Yeah.
there, you know.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. You know, it has nothing to do with science, but it has to do with experiences that we see in many people, that there is this sense of oneness and this
Mm-hmm.
of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
really has a parallel to the Akasha records. You know, a lot of people go there when in psychedelic experiences,
Yeah.
where all knowledge resides of anything that ever was and anything that ever could be.
Yeah.
And then you can experience that, and then you have to come back to reality, and there's nothing that sticks. You know?
Yep.
This is a
Yep.
very common occurrence. And yeah, I mean, I love these sort of experiences. You know, I love
Same.
to experience it. I want it for them. You know, sometimes I wish people would just have 10 seconds or 1 minute of one of my experiences, just so they know. You know.
I mean, what did Terence McKenna say? I mean, all the skeptics, like DMT, it's like 10 minutes. You don't have 10 minutes? Just it's just 10 minutes, man. You smoke it real quick. After 10, 15
world, it's 10 minutes in this world.
Yeah. But it's like, hey, so time is not a factor. Like after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're back again. I mean, yeah, it maybe feels different, but if you just look at the watch, if you're really this skeptic or
What
this
doesn't determine your reality, your emotions do. So
yeah,
you can be gone for 10 minutes, but what it lacks in length, it compensates in depth, you know. So
yeah,
my biggest dose, my biggest or deepest psychedelic experience of the last year was 5-MeO DMT, Bufo, by the toad. It was my second time. It lasts 10 minutes. That's true. But it's enough to make you see reality different for the rest of your life. And then there need not even be a psychological effect, you know. It's enough to, yeah, it's so hard to describe, because in the most simplistic terms you see the light, but that light is everything, you know. You can't even honor it by describing it in words. It is just such an emotional occurrence that you know that that light is behind everything there is, and it's just the creator, it's the source, it's consciousness itself, it's love. And I think we are all fractions of this light somehow at a soul level, you know. You really have to go overboard spiritually to try and explain the experiences that you have on these compounds, because I like,
yeah,
you know, DMT, I don't even call it a psychedelic, I call it a portal. You know, you go out of your body, you inhale it, you exhale it. Last thing you see is reality falling apart in information like a matrix, and then your mind, your consciousness is just flying through the cosmos. You know, it's just a totally different experience.
were you scared doing it because you
Yeah.
already had a
Yeah, totally, utterly. I was so scared, and the first time I did it, I wasn't scared because I didn't know what I was getting into. And
also that was your second time
this was my
this year.
second time. Yeah, like a couple of years ago, I did it. I did it outdoors, looking into agricultural landscape. Looks really pretty, nature and sun setting. And I was sitting down with shamans. On the inhale, you can still see, and automatically you see, oh yeah, on the inhale, I saw as though it was three-dimensionally made up of transparent pixels, and you didn't see them until they moved, and then they moved, and everywhere in this whole landscape in front of me, light started appearing between those little pixels. And then I was like in shock. I was like, oh, heaven is just here. It's just different frequency. And this light was growing stronger and stronger, and had my eyes open, and I looked at my hands and my arms, and I saw myself be dissolved in this white light. And the last thing I remember of the onset of this experience was that I was completely dissolving in this light. And then I clearly remember that I thought, oh my God, I know this place. I have been here forever. And that is coming home. That is the most strange thing, because
Yeah.
my life, I am a lucky bastard.
Yeah.
I have a child I love so much. I have people that love me. I can share all the love I have with people that I really care about. I I am happy on earth.
Yeah.
And I'm so privileged. I am so privileged and grateful. But when you have that experience, it's not that you feel nice and you come back again. It's not an ecstasy pill.
Yeah.
You're not there anymore. You
Yeah.
go to a different place at a soul level.
Yeah.
This is something that I think that science has a hard time wrapping its head around or formulating it.
Yeah.
We just note what they say. It's interesting to do because ancient scriptures have tried to map what happens at the other side of the curtain.
Mm.
So you have the city of Luz, I think, in the Kabbalah tradition, and there's a whole route. But it's
Yeah.
super interesting if you listen to these DMT experiences. Also from this documentary, The Spirit Molecule. It's
Mm.
absolutely fascinating.
The spirit. I didn't know that. Let me just write this down.
DMT, The Spirit Molecule, is it's already an
Awesome.
old documentary, but it is one of the most fascinating documentaries out there because it
Damn.
allows you to have a whole new idea about what consciousness is.
Yeah. How does DMT relate to, because all I can relate this to is the mushroom experience, and
Yeah.
I felt the same feeling that you felt, that you just described. Like, I totally forgot that I took mushrooms. It was just pure consciousness in this insanely great hall, and all I could think was, thank God I woke up. What a weird dream, being human. Like, what a weird dream.
Yeah. That was so funny. The other day I had a client and he was just lying there in bliss, and out of the blue he said, yeah, I don't really know if I can do this for another 100,000 years. And I said, no, man, you only have like 2 hours to go. You're okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just such an alien concept that you can leave your body, and you can travel to what we refer to as another dimension, or
Yeah.
I try to make it light, and a lot of times I just call it La La Land or the other side of the curtain or what have you.
Yeah.
But obviously, what is absolutely fascinating is that psychedelics don't reward you for bad behavior when you got away with it. They are a fine-tuned soul level calibration of a moral compass. And they show you how you hurt yourself and how that trauma coping mechanism is hurting others.
Yeah.
So in the most simplistic version, it allows you to be more kind to yourself and others.
Yeah.
And how is that even possible on a biomechanical level? It is not. So it's super fascinating to try and understand the magic of it.
Yeah.
That spelling and magic and manifesting and all these things and being in synchronicity with the universe, having all these coincidences happen. It's a really interesting thing if you look at history, to play, how that is what the meaning is of certain words, like a spell,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating. And a lot of times it's already in our language, just like diseases or a spell or a jinx, all these things.
Why do you think we have lost contact with this so much? Because
Yeah.
I feel like, and I can only speak from my experience or from people in my community or friends or acquaintances, that this whole, let's call it soul or spiritual aspect, I don't want to say got suppressed, because I don't know if there's like volition behind it, that somebody wants to do it, but we disconnected from it big time.
Yeah, we're disconnected from it, I think, through intentional culture and repression. I think the Romans couldn't eradicate this Christian cult. So at one point they embraced it and said, okay, but only this version is allowed. And all other religions were not allowed, and this became the Roman Catholic Church, so there's only one way through God, and that's through that. And if you look at ayahuasca, the embodiment of this spirit is a snake. It's a reptile. Oh, well, it's interesting to put the reptiles center stage in the human history and evolution, because we look like a reptile, when we are a couple of weeks old. And why are reptiles celebrated in the East? They are the positive spirit, like the dragon in Chinese.
Yeah, it reminds me of Kundalini energy, right? It's a snake as well that travels up the spine.
Life energy, and it's called orgone and chi and prana in many cultures, different words. But in the West, it isn't. Because what do we celebrate on St. Patrick's Day? We booze ourselves into on subconsciousness, because St. Patrick drove the snakes from Ireland, and St. George killed the dragon or the snake. All the ways there is a Christian hero, killing snakes and dragons, while they really represent the ongoing cycle of consciousness, through a different skin.
Like the Ouroboros, right?
Like the Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, it's in my logo. But
nice.
and it's like, it's almost Christmas. What do we have in our living room? It's the only tree that is green forever. And what does it have on its peak? It has the Northern Star, the biggest in our solar system, the basis of it all, according to certain traditions. And what is lying underneath in red and white? They are the gifts. What are the gifts? They are the Amanita muscaria mushrooms. These are the Siberian shamanic traditions. So they are really pagan traditions that have survived or been embraced by the Catholic culture that we all have, but we forget the true meaning. So they are really spiritual messages, in my view. And so I see a very large imprint in our history and culture of psychedelics. And more than
agree. Yeah, I mean, I heard a quote once, I don't know who it's from. We all need spirituality, or we need spirituality, but the churches have done a terrible job at it.
Yeah.
Because we need it. Like, there's no way around it. If you feel this disconnect, if you don't feel connected, nothing comes close to it. Doesn't matter what kind of people you have in your life, what kind of career you have, if you're healthy, if you achieve every goal and every dream you ever had, if you feel disconnected, life is hell.
Yeah. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's a real traumatic event. Look, if churches would allow psychedelics back into the dialogue, and imagine having a cathedral with a choir, and there you
Jesus Christ, man.
people would find God and keep coming,
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if you are the head of this church and you can do a sermon or something and you do psychedelics, that is going to be something that is going to bring people together and not a divide and not
Yeah.
so. But I
That
don't
was
see it as a
so.
realistic.
Sorry to interrupt, but that was when the mushrooms really, I don't want to say kicked in, the same with trip. I don't really like the word trip. It sounds like, oh, I'm tripping, boy. But I was in this huge, insanely big hall. I just called it the Great Hall. And you know what I thought? Oh, I understand churches now. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's buildings they try to honor this, and the best way to try to manifest it in this three-dimensional world is building these huge halls where it's just you enter them and you're just in awe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to swing. They have these things where they swing this smoke.
Yeah.
It used to be sage. You have two types of sage. One is psychedelic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I really wonder that if in the old days they would use the psychedelic version and you'd sit there looking at these glass stained windows, and I'm pretty sure that you would absolutely experience a divinity. I'm pretty sure. I just think
Yeah.
over centuries it got changed.
Yeah. But listen, brother, what can we? I don't know how much time you still have, because we're here for 1.5 hours already.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time. I have to pick up my daughter.
Yeah, then let's wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. But what I'm very curious about is what can we do to actually help this evolution take place? Because I feel like more and more people are realizing that something is going wrong in our world, and that a lot has to do with that we're disconnected, right? And more people are trying to connect, but that there are also forces who want to divide us. That people are trying to connect, that spirituality is getting more and more popular. If that's the right term, popular, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And there's a psychedelic revolution happening. So what can we do to actually help the evolution of this?
I think personal development is really at the core of it, and if you want to make it even more simple, just be kind. And I think the way, I think the tool that is used by those in power is always fear.
100% agree. Yeah.
All of a sudden, apparently, all terrorism stopped.
Yeah.
And now there's a disease, and then there's another variant of a disease. And
yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's
everything's
going crisis of fear to destabilize the herd and have them jump through the hoops. Because God forbid if we all start to think about our own place in the universe and how we relate to others and what we want to leave behind for our children, which is a greener, bluer planet and a little less toxicity, in cultures or literally.
Yeah.
What is it that you want to do on this planet now that you are conscious that you are living? And it doesn't matter if you believe in an afterlife or not. Do you want to leave it better, or do you want it to be worse off because you were here?
Yeah.
And if you can't be nice, why not? What's keeping you from being nice to yourself?
Yeah.
Because being nice to yourself makes you want to be nice to others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, brother. Personal development. How John Peterson likes to put it, clean up your room. Like fix your own shit.
Yeah, exactly. Make your bed and sleep in it.
Yeah, true. Brother, man, I would love to talk to you for a couple more hours, but I know you have stuff to do. I have stuff to do. Going to kickboxing today. Looking forward to it. And it's a big fear I always had as well. Thanks to the mushrooms, this like, all right, I got to integrate this side of me as well. So let's do it. Brother, where can people find more of you, where can they contact you when they want to work with you, or are just interested to learn more about psychedelics or your journey? Where can they reach out?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, our general website is called psychedelicinsights.com. Here you can find information about the service that we provide. You can check out our team, and you can just book a free call with us, and a video call, and there we'll be happy to explain what we do and answer questions that people have. And it doesn't cost anything. There are no strings attached. We're just happy to inform you.
Cool. And you mentioned your documentary. When is this coming out, or where is it coming out when if people are interested?
Yeah, this is about the veterans. It's actually on a website called Psychedelic Warriors. And yeah, it's gonna probably come out in the beginning of next year, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, it will have a lot of interviews and testimonials from a lot of veterans, also medical doctors, people that normally treat people with PTSD, and they feel they are just drugged up, you know. I think it's a holistic approach, and a lot of veterans that have had their psychedelic experience that really share what it has meant for them, and how big a switch they made, you know, from hate to compassion, really, you know, and to
yeah. Nice. I'll put all the links down in the description. Thanks. So it's easier to find. Hey, brother, thanks for taking the time. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Brother, thanks. Big hug to you.
Definitely sending
on your podcast. Very exciting, and I would love to come again.
Oh, dude, let's do it. Definitely. Like, this is I plan on doing this for quite some time, I guess. So let's do it, brother. Thanks for taking the time, and enjoy your day.
Okay, Alexander. Bye, man.